The 10 short story of the ghostly tales and curious stories from England is The Old Man Who Hated Young Girls. The two old friends settled themselves comfortably at a table outside their local pub, each with a pint of beer at their elbows and old-fashioned baskets at their feet laden with vegetables newly dug from their allotments. These they would take home surely for their wives to prepare for dinner. They were both tired from the digging and weeding their vegetable and fruit beds. They were watching a large furniture van being unloaded with a new family's worldly goods.
How long do you reckon they'll be here?
No idea. Nobody stays long. It's the cottage, you see. It doesn't keep people for long. Why is that? It's an old story. My granny used to talk about it. She's long gone, and so is the old man who lived there and is still said to haunt it.
In her time it was 2 attached small cottages. Now it is just one house. Hasn't changed much. Nobody stays long enough to do a lot. I'd forgotten your family have lived in the village for a long time. Back to the Doomsday Book, it is rumored. I've been here 70 years, but am still made to feel like a newcomer. I remember you from our first day in school. It's a long time ago. Both men took a large gulp from their pint pot. Go on about your granny and the old man. The old man lived in one of the 2 cottages. In those days, it was just one room downstairs where all the cooking, living, and eating took place. Outside was the old privy, probably an earth closet in those days. I think the little shed is still there. At least it was when I last had a look round. There was 1 bedroom above the living area. The whole family packed into the 2 rooms. I believe they had 5 kids. Don't know how they coped.
Go on, Jim. I want to hear about the ghost.
The story my old granny used to tell was that the wife died leaving him with the children, died in childbirth, and taking the child with her. Well, the old man, he wasn't that old then, decided to ask a young girl to marry him. She quite rightly thought it was to look after his kids. Probably correct. She told him no. She was known in the village for being a flighty bit. Anyway, she said no. And the next thing was she went to work as a maid in the manor house in the village. Some handsome young men servants there, it was said, thought she could do better than an old man with 5 kids.
What happened then?
Well, so the story goes, he turned against her, began shouting hussy at her when he saw her around. He never did marry again. Turned against young women, including his 3 daughters. They couldn't wait to get married and move away. He began calling them hussies as well. The 2 sons went off. One became a gardener at the manor house, and the other moved to London. It was said, you know the woman Kath, who lives in the village. He was her grandfather, I believe.
What does she say about him?
Not a lot. Anyway, about 50 years ago the owners of the other cottage turned the whole lot into one big cottage. That was when strange things began to happen. He's been dead about 70 years, I think. There was a big mirror on the wall above the old black cooking range in the old man's side of the cottages. It didn't matter what they did, but every Thursday morning it had been taken off the wall and leant facing away against the side of the fireplace. They tried everything, including screwing it to the wall, but every Thursday there it was again. They said he didn't like mirrors. Maybe didn't like seeing his own face. That was weird. What was weirder was that they had to keep replacing the screws and things. Every week they disappeared. Literally just vanished. The 2 old men finished off their pints, got to their feet, to make their way home. As they passed the removal truck, the new owners came out of the house. The old men introduced themselves. "Jim and Nick, good to meet you," they said, while the newcomers told them they were Hugh and Rebecca, from down south. "Our daughter, Mandy, will be moving in with us shortly. She's 15, staying with her grandparents for a week or so." Jim and Nick looked at each other, knowing what the other was thinking. Oh no, now the trouble will start. However, all they said was welcome to the village. Hoped they'd be very happy here. All was peaceful in the cottage, while the newcomers moved in and sorted out their things. Mandy joined them, and although she said she loved her room, she didn't feel quite right about it. Something was wrong, she told her mum. About 3 weeks after Mandy had joined them, Rebecca, who was a bit psychic, thought she sensed a presence in what they called the little sitting room, formerly the old living and kitchen area. This was in fact in the old man's part of the house. She talked out loud, telling him he was welcome to stay. She wasn't frightened of him. She could have sworn later there was a sound like hussy. Rebecca immediately felt cold and shaky. She shuddered and imagined something or somebody was saying, "How dared she say he could stay in his own home?" This was the day it all began. Mandy had joined the local tennis club and was out for the evening. Saying good night to her parents, she took herself off to bed, followed by their dog. Nobody knew what kind of dog she was. A mixture, obviously. Usually Millie cheerfully followed Mandy into her room, but tonight it was different. The dog stood whimpering at the top of the stairs. Mandy tried to coax her in, but she wasn't going to be persuaded. Just then the door leading into the bedroom mysteriously slammed shut behind Mandy, shutting Millie out. A little bit spooked, Mandy got ready for bed. She lay back and switched off the light. That was the moment the teenager felt that a terrible presence was shut in with her. Later, when she told her mother, she described it as if there was a vortex of evil energy spinning very fast at the foot of her bed. A feeling of terror swept over Mandy. Too frightened to get up, and too frightened to scream, she lay there cowering beneath the bedclothes. It must have stopped, because she had, much later, fallen asleep.
"Mum, something terrible happened last night," she said as she described her experience. "Please, can I change bedrooms? I can't sleep in there again."
Her mother believed her, and said her daughter could move into the little spare bedroom. It wasn't nearly as nice, but she could go there. Later that day, when Rebecca was sorting out the little bedroom, another frightening thing happened. She was arranging a bedside lamp for her daughter, when a sudden crash made her turn around quickly. A tall mirror, still unattached to a wall, had been leaning against it. As Rebecca turned, she saw the mirror lying smashed, face down, on the carpet across the room. There was nobody else in the house. Now Rebecca really began to feel afraid.